First of all, thanks for coming to this late session, you all. It's going to be a talk about digital technology without using a digital projector. How's that? My thesis is pretty simple today. So I believe that the university, which is 1,000 years old in the West, and look at Bologna founded in 1099, the university is 1,000 years old, has recently undergone the biggest change in its history. It's changed every single thing about it. Many of us are probably work in universities or lovers of universities. What has happened to the university in the last 25 years? And I believe something has happened to it because of changes in technology and communication. Why is the university important? If you read Plato's Republic, which is subtitled On Justice, he spends the bulk of the book on justice talking about education. And why would you talk about education book on justice? Because he believed that a good society is only as good as its schools. Now, are our schools good? That's a great question. Is our college is good? There's two things you can say. People come from all over the world to go to our college. We have the best college in the world, and we're always complaining how bad they are at the same time, right? Another thing, too, is in doing some research on this topic, I've actually found that I found complaints about the running down of education, the crisis in schools, going back to the 12th century. That it was it was all over and things had really gotten out of control. America's had a particular genius for higher education. Is something that I realized just recently. Is the word education not found in the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. The founding fathers did not mention the word education. I figured if Plato said it was essential to society, all the great works on society mention education, from Rousseau to Plato and Plato and Aristotle and Rousseau. Why did the founding fathers so importantly leave it out? Look at that in a little bit. So what's happened recently is this, is that there's been a revolution in our society. The 1947 comes the digital chip, and the digital chip changes everything. It makes work cheaper and faster. The chips have gotten into everything. You probably used 100 chips today. There's a chip in your coffee maker, and your cell phone, and your TV set, and all around. Chips are doing all sorts of work for you. They do things. These chips have wreaked havoc upon our society. What have they done? They made things cheaper and easier for us. At the same time, a lot of folks out of work. I think, for example, in the apartment building I grew up in, there was a guy across the street from me in that department. He made his living as a subway token collector. He was on the New York City subway. He collected tickets and did this thing. That's all mechanized. Bank tellers, mechanized. Toll collectors on the highway, mechanized. The digital revolution put millions and billions of people out of work worldwide. Chips did the work we did before. What did chips do? They contain information. What does information mean? Well, digital technology does three things. It creates, stores, and shares information. Say that again. Digital technology creates, stores, and shares information. What these chips do. What does the university do? Very good. Okay, so it turns out that what a university did is what the chip does. The chip arrives at the university to the chagrin of the professors. Now, I've recently, looking back upon my long life, I was a distance learning person in the late 1980s. And we're younger than that. And so I became really interested in distance learning technology. So I got the other young professors doing it. Oh, professors, they didn't like this. This is a bad idea. I realized much later why they thought it was a bad idea. It's a bad idea because it actually wrecks the university. It wrecks the university in all sorts of ways. Let me give you one example. In 1099, when the University of Bologna was founded, and the University of Paris shortly afterwards, a professor would go into a room, close the door, and there'd be rows of desks, and the professor would stand up here and talk like this. And so for 1,000 years, this went on that way. Until about 20 years ago, it never changed. And in colleges right near here today, probably 15 miles here today, there's a professor standing for the rows of desks, just like 1,000 years ago, doing exactly the same thing. When the digital classroom arrived, the online classroom arrived, something fantastic changed. What changed? It leaves a digital footprint in every course. Every joke, every student interaction, it can be mapped, made in colored, made graphs. We can make big data out of it. We can pull all sorts of data. We can, for the first time, as Big Brother, see what's going on in all sorts of ways underneath the surface. When data is shared, the nature of the university changes. not just in teaching, but in all sorts of ways. It affects academic freedom, for example. What is academic freedom? Well, professors control the university because the professors were experts. What happens to expertise in the age of the digital chip? Great question. What happens to brilliance? There's a guy called Andrew Keen, K-E-E-N. He wrote a book about the, that was book, it was called something about how the digital chips are making a world of amateurs. How if everybody can blog, everybody can add Wikipedia, everybody can do these things, what happens to expertise? What happens to knowledge? What happens to professionalism? The word authority is going to come from the word author. We can all be authors today, can't we? We can all. That's right, that's right. We can self-publish our books, go on the web, make my blog, and so suddenly the idea of authority and professionalism has been changed. The university's changed even more than that. It's changed how students can access information. When I was a young student, when the library closed, every time it closed on Saturdays, all the times closed on Saturdays, that was the end of it. I was just going to play my guitar or something, or throw a frisbee to somebody. I wasn't doing anything. Today, there are Starbucks nearby the college, and universities have changed. Talk to a reference librarian in college for the last 25 years, what happened to them. Libraries have changed. Library usage has changed. Digital technology has changed. It's all changed. The university have changed even more. Universities were very siloed, like all businesses were. Siloed means the registrar did one business, the bursar did another business, academics did another business. You'll remember this because when you were in college, you had to register for class, you'd be in 4 or 5 separate lines. Remember that? When I was in college, we went to the gymnasium, and they were lined up alphabetically, and with these computer cards. No, that's just me. Okay, anyway. And anthropology was here. There we go. Anthropology, zoology was here, and they would open the doors like so sophomores, like on Tuesday, and we'd all start running. It was like a Black Friday at Walmart sometimes. And we get these cards, and we trade cards, something we get place online, et cetera, we do these things. Because there was limited classroom space, there's limited seating. Not in the MOOCs, is there? no limited seating in the MOOCs. So what's happening basically is the digital chip changed how information was created, stored, and shared. But it becomes even more fantastic. It becomes more fantastic because a professional class of managers now arrives at the university. For those professors here, handful of professors, don't be ashamed. I'm a philosophy professor, which is the worst thing you can be. I sit out at the party they run. When you arrive in college, you close the door, you have your own world, and you were an expert in that world. You were a craftsman, you were a powerful person, and the faculty ruled as a group because we were the experts and we knew. When knowledge has become a commodity, when knowledge can be set down, when knowledge can be stored, we're no longer the experts. Faculty have lost power. Faculty have lost teaching power. Tenure lines are gone. Adjuncts. I was an adjunct for a couple years in New York City. I know the subway real well. Up in the Bronx in the morning, Brooklyn, and pretty gruesome bad weather in New York. We're going back and forth doing these things. Now we can all be adjuncts because we can save costs. Just like the price of food. What's this over question? Anyway, just as the price of food has been driven down, and just other costs have been driven down, the cost of music has been driven down, so has the cost of education. I don't think so. The tuition didn't do that, that's another issue. But the cost of providing education has been driven down because the cost of educational labor has been driven down. Look at full-time tenure lines. Look at the number of adjuncts, percentage of adjuncts, see what happens. When you were a young college student years ago, you were likely 80 to 90% of the professors were full-time, they had tenure lines, they had all these things. That's all going away now. If you're a young professional, hard to compete with. So what happens is that learning has escaped the university, and expertise escaped the university, and knowledge is now gone out of the university. There was a time when, if you look at how great universities were built, they were built on an idea of nostalgia, which means that in America, when they started to design the early universities in New England, they went to Oxford and Cambridge and Bologna. Looked at that. They built Harvard and Princeton, not anything new. It was built in imitation of great European universities. We're trying to imitate Oxford, right? We want to be like Oxford, so we do these things. So in this nostalgia for this old thing, we built a university system which is basically conservative, because it does conserve knowledge. Okay, it's a conservative thing. Digital chips are not conservative. They're the opposite. They move things along at a high speed. So suddenly the digital revolution arrives in the university and begins to wreak havoc in the university. It wreaks havoc with tenure lines, it wreaks havoc with how knowledge is stored and transmitted, it wreaks havoc with libraries and librarians. It wreaks havoc with the registrar's office. To give you a very good example of this. In college, the reason why you waited the bursar's line, the registrar's line, the advising line in your college is it was a piece of paper you were bringing around with you to the college. College was based upon paper technology. It's very, very important. Gutenberg was a very important guy. He changed how we keep and store things, you know. So when I was in college, I had a blue sheet. It was blue. I remember this. And I carried around. I looked at a registrar and did the, okay, now I know the financial items I pay you. Then I go see my federal loan. I pay you. Then parking, like my dorm room. You know, so I'm on 6 or 7 lines from this thing. And whoever ended up that piece of paper was a powerful person at that university. Whoever the piece of paper got left with, the registrar, who had the college seal. That's very cool. I was a registrar. I know how proud she is to have a college seal. You can't mess with her. She's a college seal. We get to be the president of the provost. She can, you know. She certifies, authenticates learning and certifies the degree. It's pretty cool. So what happens is the registrar is a very powerful person. They have a piece of paper. What happens once the piece of paper goes away and knowledge becomes digitized? Suddenly, the landscape of the university falls away. It's an earthquake in the university. What is that earthquake? The earthquake is that when knowledge is shared, it becomes digital. You can now do all sorts of studies and things that are sort of moving around in different ways. I'm going to do a short period of time, so we'll give you 2 quick examples. I was going to start talking about today, but I can't get it all in here. 2 quick examples of the kind of things that can happen when this goes on. First is a little bit of a relevant story, but how relevant is my second story. There was an article in the New York Times about Target stores. Target used something called big data. You all have heard of big data. Big data is a set so large, you need special software and hardware to manage it because there's so many things that Target can collect so much data on its folks that it knows things about them that they don't even know. So Target finds out that women that are pregnant are buying combinations of several things. They're buying unscented bath oils, unscented this and that, magnesium, calcium, and cotton balls in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy. So when people buy this combination of things, they send them, you know, baby carriage stuff. It's Target smart. They get to target that way. Just like what you did on Google. Your Google's not like mine. My Google's my own Google. They know where I'm weak. And Amazon really knows where I'm weak. Never mind anything on Amazon. They'll remind you forever. So anyway, what happens is that one day a father comes into Minneapolis Google, and if you want to get the story, it's a New York Times story. Just do Target and big data and pregnancy. You'll find it's a great story. An angry father comes to Target. He says, "Listen, I'm really mad at you. My daughter's 17. You're sending all this pregnancy stuff. You should don't. You're encouraging them. We're a Christian family. You're immoral." Leaves. He calls up a couple weeks later. "I have to apologize," the father says. "You knew something we didn't." Target knew their daughter was pregnant when the mother and father didn't. That is big data. And as I spread today, if the FBI can investigate head of CIA for 6 months, what chance do we have? The second thing is big data has come to higher education. Our university, the American Public University System, has been part of a Bill and Melinda Gates project for the past year, where 7 big colleges, including some state universities, the University of Illinois and other colleges, have collected all of our data bits together. We're now running data bits on 87 different variables on like 4 million data sets. You can imagine all the things we're sort of learning as we go through these things. And we're learning things that were absolutely against what we thought. I'll give you a good example how data is changing in the university. Most colleges have a College 101 course. When the students get to college, we got to make the freshmen say, so we'll do College 101. We'll take them to the freshman barbecue and show up where the registrar's office is, and we'll hook them up with the advisor. That will improve retention. That's good. Never question that. We got a big computer system, run a semantic engine through. We found out, after the semantic engine ran through, that students that took that class are more likely to quit than students that avoided it. Now, we had a dean of College 100, we had a whole college faculty who were very proud of it. We revised the course while we were doing good. The opposite was happening, we didn't know. So what has happened? As data is coming to the university, we become smart about what we're doing. It's become a different kind of place. So what's the sort of the long and short of this again for you? I turned Fred loose for a few minutes.
That doesn't allow me to use that.
No, that's good. The long and short is this: as the university is changing, there's a threat to the faculty, a threat to the university. What's the threat to the faculty? Management systems are now running the university. Professional managers don't know this to the university are now running it. They arrive with, you know, insult anybody, but they have black belts and Sigma 6 and the TQM and everything. And professors know that means it's the end of their life when you hear those words. because they want outcomes, they want results reportable, they want different results. The reason why the founders didn't mention education is because they were very wise men. In America, there are schools of dance, there are rabbinical schools, there are Bible schools with 6 professors, and there's MIT. There are chiropractic schools, there are schools of, what's that? Undertaking, what's it called?
Undertaking.
Yeah, anyway, there's all, they have their own accreditation body. There are nursing colleges, medical schools, they're all doing something different. So people say we have to fix higher education. Number one, it's more complicated than you think. Number two, fixing it usually means you come from the left or the right, in or out. So my thesis has been that the digital revolution is now just remaking it. And there's not much we can do about it until it's over. And we're not doing it, it is doing it. You know, it's like one of those science fiction movies where a worm burrows under your skin and trying to do some weird thing, you know? So what I've been trying to do is think for the last couple of months about this problem, and I'm actually have a book coming out in a couple of weeks called The Idea of the Digital University, which I'm going to pull up right here for a second. But to think about these things, think about the fact that it hasn't been liberal professors, it hasn't been, you know, conservative students, it hasn't been the Heritage Foundation or the this and that. It's been the digital revolution that has changed what knowledge is, where it goes, and how it's done. How do we keep a strong faculty? How do we keep faculty governance, yet evolve the institution at the same time so that data is shared and move in a direction? That's the policy question we have to sort of think and ask. Let Fred talk a minute, then we'll get a question or two.
Yeah, questions are probably going to be more important. Let me continue the theme of the disruptive university, the web. We've got a communication revolution that's ongoing at the moment. In the end, we don't know what's going to happen. Our best predictions are going to fall by the wayside. The born web kids are coming up now. They're going to kick our tails. Get ready for it. They don't think the same way we do. Let's look at some of the disruptive factors that hang in the backside. The technology, or even online education itself. Online education, our university teaches asynchronously. There is no lecture. That interpretive thing that is at the key to the traditional modes of education is not there. Yet it works. Our results are going to be roughly the same as the results at a traditional university, with one exception. Our results are colorblind, sex blind. We have found a way from this system without the visual clues. We know, I mean, there's some reasons for it we can get into. This is a very different form of education that's coming out. When you start to look at the technology, what are you going to do with voice recognition that's built in HTML5? Come on. Touch screens. 3D projections, folks. Augmented reality. What happens when you start teaching geometry in 3 dimensions that you can shape? We know that the students don't like the old ways of teaching. Eye movement. Dan was talking about some of these things. There's stuff on the books right now that our pedagogies have not touched. They will touch them at some time. But it's even at the cutting edge of online education, we don't see them touched. Education, MOOCs. What type of education says 90% dropout rate is good? Got one for me? I think MOOCs have a place, but if you think this is where we're going to go, no, it's going to be part of a pattern. And to me, it's part of the pattern. One of the things that we want to fight against is a drive towards courses as opposed to curriculum. A university teaches curriculum. Each university has separate curriculums. You have a discipline. The specialists in your fields have decided this is the learning objectives, whatever we want to call it, but the people who graduate from this program are going to learn certain facts that are shared. They're going to learn a methodology. That's all we do. Those 2 things. Everything else is, I think the scientific word is bullshit. I mean, we can add, so to speak. You can start to measure what's the one factor that we know that correlates for student success? Good teacher. It's the only one. All this other mechanism, I mean, I can sit here and we can show everything out there, all these great tool skills, the Newtons, all the, hey, they don't work.
No, we have 4 minutes left. So get best thing, many of your questions. I'm sure there should be at least one.
Yeah. You mentioned that these chips create information, and we came across a term. Well, we have first in, first out, first in, last out. We also had GIGO, garbage in, gospel out.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay. Also, when I first went to Carnegie Mellon University, the president of the university told us that American colleges are full of knowledge. The freshmen bring a little bit in, the seniors take none out, and knowledge accumulates.
I'll steal that from you. Thank you.
Let me throw something in very quickly.
Very good.
One thing that we may all want to look out for is textbook dependency, didactic teaching, which really is GI Bill. It's 1950s. That has been a change. Textbook companies like Pearson, Pearson's teaching in Africa. Pearson is teaching in London right now. Pearson wants to not only take your money, Pearson thinks it knows how to teach. So there's some other threats out there.
Wonderful comments, I appreciate it. But I was wondering if you could apply the filter you just did to higher ed domestically to the world, where in India, Brazil, Russia, they need graduates in science, engineering, and health.
Yeah.
So what are they going to learn? Are they going to skip that?
Well, you know, it's a worldwide phenomenon that's happening, and what we need folks who are good in the STEM things, you know, science, engineering, technology, and mathematics. And that's while there's, I'm a philosopher, and there has to be room for guys like us. These things have to be done. The good news is there's better ways to teach that now. The digital thing can do it right now. What my thesis is this: is that the digital revolution, which has wrecked our universities, also has the power to fix it. Because there are ways that it can teach and show and repeat things over, whether it's India or China or these things. I believe there'll be a large digital portion to the university in the future.
And the technology, we're seeing that people have made a leap, so it's not the laptop. How do you, the challenge is how do you transmit what you do in a classroom into this?
Yes.
How much of the industry out there that is hiring these students today that are going to be graduating from our online universities going to dictate to what we teach and how we teach it?
Yeah, and that's why in my book, the book's subtitled Ancient Traditions and Disruptive Technologies. You know, here's the thing is, having a strong faculty that can protect the curriculum is essential. But that's harder to have when there's managers coming in who have been in aerospace or at Radio Shack or something else, and we're bringing management techniques to run things. So the difficulty in university is how do we make them more efficient, make them more digital, get rid of the silos, at the same time protect the sacredness of the fact that you can teach hydroponics, I know for a fact better than I can, because I can teach it at all. So to protect that thing is the question is, how do you protect what's good while these changes go on around them?
Education rather than training.
Last question.
I seem to discern a bias between the MOOCs like Coursera and edX and American Public University. I think there's a space for both. You mentioned that curriculum, they don't have a curriculum, they're just courses. There's nothing that prevents them in their evolution to having a curriculum. In fact, I predict that within the next 18 months or so, after you take one of these courses, if you do the work, and I know they have a high dropout rate, but there's thousands of people, so that also means there's a lot of completers. And some of the work I've done it. If you do it, it's really rigorous, and you can learn what would stop them from having a contract with like Pearson VUE. Maybe you could go and you could then take a challenge exam that has some integrity by a third party and get academic credit.
You're right. Here's an interesting statistic is, I found out about 2 weeks ago that full degrees, AA and BA, BS degrees, full degrees by major state universities have increased by 68% in the last 12 months. So that means now that the University of Alabama and the University of Oklahoma and the Ohio State University, they're coming online now, which they didn't do. How did the for-profits get there so early? Because the regular faculty resisted. They resisted probably for the right reasons, because there was stuff around that was sort of direct what they did. At the same time now, the state universities, because of financial pressures, tuition pressures, and technology are there. So this thing is now happening. And by the way, when you look at the diversity of American higher education, There are music conservatories, there are historically black colleges, there are tribal colleges, there are schools of dance, and we can't forget that diversity. So when people talk about fixing higher ed, we often forget how that it's that wonderful fabric that's chaotic and terrible and great that makes what we are. Thank you, and we're on time. Hooray!
And please buy this.
Yeah, I need the money. Amazon 2 weeks. That was a good comment. That was good. I like that.